For my field experience, I spent 12 hours observing and interacting with Muslims during the holy month of Ramadan. Growing up a Protestant Christian in the Bible Belt, I have had very limited exposure and interactions with Muslims. I knew this field experience would go beyond my comfort level, but I wanted to learn more about Islamic customs and beliefs. This is my informant, Brittany Mubarak. Brittany grew up in Florida and was raised in a Christian household. While she was in high school, she made the decision to convert to Islam. Shortly after graduating high school, she married her boyfriend Saad in the mosque. Brittany and Saad have spent the past decade raising their 2 boys, Nabil and Bilal, in Charlotte, North Carolina. Brittany was an excellent informant because she had extensive experience and knowledge about both Christianity and Islam. My first field experience was attending an iftar at Brittany's home. During the month of Ramadan, Muslims abstain from food, drink, and sex between sunrise and sunset. Iftar is the meal Muslims eat at sunset to break the fast. I was very nervous before arriving at Brittany's home because I wasn't sure what to expect, but I was relieved to be greeted by a diverse group of welcoming women. We shared small bowls of lentil soup, then I observed the women pray the 4th of 5 daily prayers. Brittany showed me the apps on her phone she used to find the direction to pray, as well as alarms that notify her of the next prayer time. Because there were only women present, many ladies removed their hijabs after prayer. We ate a sampling of Middle Eastern dishes. We spent the evening laughing and sharing stories of parenting mishaps, traveling adventures, and struggles in our faith journeys. We sipped hot tea and played board games until well after midnight. Before the experience, I had a preconceived notion that Muslim women were timid and submissive. This myth was shattered as I was blown away by how cultured and independent each of these women were. They spoke multiple languages, were world travelers, and served as the backbone of their family. I felt very connected as a sisterhood and was reminded of Audre Lorde's words. I speak these words in an attempt to break that silence and bridge some of the differences between us. For it is not difference which immobilizes us, but silence. This evening was indeed a time where we broke the silence and shared our feelings in an intimate setting. There were no barriers between us because we were able to participate in open dialogue and share our true thoughts and feelings. My next field experience was attending Taraweeh at the Muslim Community Center. I had to double check with Brittany that the event began at 10 p.m., not 10 a.m. During Ramadan, most events are held before sunrise and after sunset. The gym was crowded and hot without air conditioning. Brittany stayed with me in the back of the community center as we observed over 100 men and women pray the Taraweeh, which is an optional evening prayer during Ramadan. Men stood in rows, shoulder to shoulder, towards the front of the gym. A distinct space separated the rows of women, who stood in a similar fashion in the back of the gym. We were led by the Imam's melodic recitation of the Quran. Next, we observed the Children's Taraweeh Club. There were 25 children, ages 9 through 12, who gathered to study and discuss verses from the Quran. The discussion focused on purity and cleanliness. The classes were comparable to early Sunday school classes established by Black missionary churches. Instead of studying classical liberal curriculum and reading the Bible, Muslim students around the world are expected to study Arabic so they can read and memorize the Quran. I felt very vulnerable and exposed during this field experience because I was the only woman without a hijab. The women greeted one another with hugs and kisses while giving me a small smile. The men ignored me altogether. Brittany later informed me that Muslim men are taught to lower their gaze and avoid eye contact and physical contact with women. The following week, I had the opportunity to attend an interfaith event at the Islamic Society of Greater Charlotte. I was looking forward to this event because it included a tour of the mosque, guest speakers, and a dinner. I was surprised to discover that men and women had separate entrances. We entered the building, took off our shoes, and placed them in a cubby. After touring the mosque and observing the afternoon prayer, we put our shoes back on and walked to the gym for iftar. Throughout the hour-long program, we heard from multiple imams at local mosques, as well as other religious and political leaders in the community. Each speaker shared messages about working together as a community. The imams debunked stereotypes of angry or violent Muslims and emphasized the call to social justice and peace. We broke our fast by eating traditional dates. We heard recitations of the Quran, then enjoyed fellowship and the main course of chicken, lamb, rice, and hummus. I visited a table with literature and received various pamphlets and an English translation of the Quran. I asked a group of men to give advice to educators about best practices for teaching Muslim children. None of the men were educators, but they each described a culturally responsive education. We discussed creating a culturally inclusive classroom where students are familiar with various holidays and customs and celebrate cultural diversity. One even volunteered to be a guest speaker in my class. My final field experience was attending Eid at the Khabaris Arena. This is a highly celebrated holiday that marks the end of Ramadan. After a month of fasting, Eid begins with prayer and is followed with hours of feasting while visiting friends and family. Interestingly, the date of Eid was not officially declared until the night before when imams met to confirm the moon sightings. Because this was a major Muslim holiday, I decided to follow the rules of modesty by covering head to toe and wearing a headscarf, though I felt like an imposter. Once inside the arena, I became quite claustrophobic and paranoid as the arena filled with nearly 10,000 people. We stood shoulder to shoulder in tightly packed rows while listening to the melodic takbir recitations. Thousands bowed together, fluidly moving through the prayers. People who fulfilled their obligations tried to leave as latecomers tried to arrive. This resulted in thousands of women and children standing in gridlock. Once the crowd thinned, we listened to the imam preach about social justice and moral obligations. The message focused on following Islamic law and becoming a positive light in the media and press, rather than being perceived as an oppressed people. There was even a voter registration booth at the arena, where Muslims were highly encouraged to be politically active. After the message and prayers, children received bags of candy and ran around gleefully. A once diverse crowd quickly broke off into visibly segregated ethnic groups. Extended families posed for photographs. Brittany and I parted ways, while thousands of Muslims headed to restaurants, mosques, and homes to begin their feast. Over the past month, I've shared meals and prayer spaces and celebrated major holidays with thousands of Muslims. While I certainly won't be converting, I have been continuously impressed with the level of discipline and commitment demonstrated by the individuals I encountered. The people were family-oriented, respectful, and welcoming. They were incredibly generous in their giving. I have experienced a range of comfort levels, but feel very grateful to learn and grow from the experience.